Information gathering technologies using facial recognition and artificial intelligence have their uses, but the really actionable and useful intelligence still comes from human spies and agents. Douglas London is a former senior operations officer for the CIA and is an associate professor at Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. He's also the author of The Recruiter: Spying and the Lost Art of American Intelligence. Doug, welcome.
Good morning. How are you today?
So a situation like Russia invading Ukraine, what are the limitations of relying on technologies for intelligence as opposed to human intelligence gathering?
You know, the war in Ukraine really illustrates the point my book makes, that in this age of great power competition, where technology and disinformation so influence the battle space, that our need for human sources, for insiders who could tell us what's going on in the reality, is more critical than ever.
I mean, do we know what impact human intelligence has had in the lead up and execution of this war in Ukraine?
The way the information has been presented to us, the declassified intelligence that we've heard from Secretary of State Blinken and General Austin and the President himself, speaks in terms of high confidence, which is really an intelligence buzzword for having multiple streams of information, multiple sources, and you can't just rely on any one particular stream, just not technology, not human. So I think the buzzwords we've been hearing suggest there's a human thread there somewhere.
What are the types of intelligence questions technology can answer for us?
Well, technology did a great job of letting us know that the Russians were sending forth a mass number of troops and armor and aircraft surrounding Ukraine and to Belarus. It didn't tell us what their plans were, what they were going to do with them. So your ability to interpret in a world where intelligence being imperfect because it's incomplete on a good day really means understanding how to fill in the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that you don't have.
And you've said that technology makes spying harder. How is that?
Well, this is the day of biometrics and facial recognition, and everyone's carrying a tracking device on their phones, their watch, and such like that. So we have to innovate, create, and actually use technology, sometimes against technology, in order to clandestinely meet the agents that we do work with on the streets.
So the age of just putting on a fake mustache and going out there as a different person, that's over?
I wouldn't say it's over. I'd say it has to merge with how we can beat technology, sometimes using it, but often beating the person behind the technology. You can't beat machines, but you can beat people.
You mentioned this before, the declassifying of information about Russia's intentions, and that was done very quickly and very openly. What do you make of that? And do you think it made a difference?
It's unprecedented. The best possible example was December of 1980, when then Soviet Union was planning to invade Poland, and we had a very well-placed agent in the Polish chief of command who provided us the plans for that, and we exposed that. But more recently, we've seen products such as finished intelligence, the Khashoggi report, that on Russian meddling. Those are analytic products that take a long time. This has been a steady stream of raw reporting from perhaps agents and technical means, and it's really unusual, but it's had quite an impact.
So you think it's had an impact on this Russian war against Ukraine? Do you think that declassifying and being very open about this is what Russia's doing, this is what they're planning on doing, and we've got high confidence, as you said, did that make a difference? Did that change anything? I mean, they still invaded.
I have to acknowledge it has. As a spy, it makes the hairs on my neck go up, the idea of like releasing classified information, the danger perhaps to our sources and our means. But in this case, I don't believe it was designed to preempt the Russians from invading. I think we were certain it was going to happen and Putin was going to go forward, but it prepared the battle space. It put pressure on our allies throughout NATO and the G7 through their own public to take action, to do something to change the course of what would be this war we're now in.
So what does the CIA and other intelligence agencies need to be doing? What are you recommending?
Well, coming out of 20 years of fighting a war on terrorism, we have to transition back to those dark secrets, if you would, of meeting people on the streets, because it's really people who will interpret what's going on, what we see, who help us discern truth from disinformation and tell us what plans are. We don't recruit agents overnight. It takes time. But I'd like to think that what I've seen and what Director Burns has done has been a direction to getting back into the foreign intelligence business, retraining our workforce, innovating our tradecraft, and adapting to the battlefield today to get the spies we need on the inside.
And Doug, looking back at history, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis, we had an issue with Russia and nuclear weapons. What did we learn from that as far as the importance of human intelligence?
It's a great example because, as you know, back then we were looking at U-2 photos, and we knew there were missiles, and we knew there were Russians, and we had a sense of their capability. But it was a spy named Penkovsky who was on the inside, who told us what the realities of Soviet capabilities were, but more importantly, what the leadership dynamics were inside, whether or not they'd actually go toe-to-toe and risk a nuclear war with the United States. It made all the difference. He's referred to as the spy that saved the world.
And, you know, in that case, there was the naval blockade. In this case, things are very different this time around. There's a lot more nuclear weapons involved than back in 1962.
The stakes are high, and there's risks that we need to take, and it's having agents and intelligence collection that tells us how far can we push the edge of that envelope.
All right. Well, hopefully not too far.
I would hope not.
Doug, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thanks, Mimi.
Coming next, the total defense budget is over $780 billion, about 5% more than last year. Straight ahead on Government Matters, what's in the new fiscal 2022 budget and the additional funds for aid to Ukraine. You're watching WJLA 24/7 News.